Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into a report that lays out what it calls a brand new architecture of kleptocracy, which is basically a whole new way political power can be turned into private cash.
Okay, so the main claim here, the big idea in this report, is that the whole game of political self-enrichment has changed. It's arguing we've gone way beyond just, opportunistic conflicts of interest. It's now talking about a deliberate, professionalized system that's actually designed to extract wealth.
Right, and to really get this point across, the report paints a picture of two very different terms. It says the first term was all about, opportunistic profit, using things like hotels and physical assets to see how far they could push the ethical boundaries. But the alleged plan for a second term, that's described as something else entirely. We're talking a professional, almost industrial-scale system that uses anonymous digital assets and the full power of the state to pull out massive amounts of wealth. And the numbers involved here, according to the report, are just staggering. It estimates that in a single year, the family brought in profits of at least $2.25 billion. So the big question is, where on earth is all this money supposedly coming from? Let's get into it. All right, so how does this all work? How is this money actually being made? Well, the report points to what it calls a digital treasury. Think of it as a whole new financial engine, one that's supposedly built to take full advantage of the complex and often anonymous world of crypto. And right at the heart of all this is a company called World Liberty Financial, or WLF for short. Now, the sources we're looking at describe it as a crypto project that was launched just before the inauguration. But really, it's presented as acting like a private digital bank for all these different ventures. And check out this ownership structure. The report alleges the company is set up so that 75% of all net revenue flows directly to the family. So as a classic example of how state policy and private business are allegedly getting mixed up, the report highlights a specific deal with the United Arab Emirates. It lays out this really clear timeline. First, a UAE state-backed company invests $500 million into WLF. And then the administration gives the green light for the UAE to get its hands on advanced U.S. computer chip technology, a deal, by the way, that had been blocked before because of national security worries. The report is basically suggesting a direct quid pro quo here. Okay, another tool in the box, according to the report, is the TRUMP Memecoin. The idea here is that by allegedly controlling most of these coins, family-owned companies can pretty much call the shots. This apparently creates this incredibly powerful and untraceable way for huge sums of money to be funneled directly into the president's own financial interests. Right, so this is the real kicker. How does a meme coin turn into cash and influence? Well, the report claims an announcement was made saying that the biggest buyers of the coin would get an exclusive private dinner at the White House. You can see how that creates a massive incentive for people to make large, untraceable purchases, can't you? Okay, so this table really pulls all those numbers together. The report breaks down the alleged profits. We're talking over $1.1 billion from World Liberty Financial, and then another billion plus from the meme coin. And what's absolutely crucial here is that it highlights that at least $436 million of that total is said to have come straight from foreign sources. Okay, so that's the financial setup, the alleged digital treasury. But a system like this needs people to run it. So who are the key players said to be at the center of this network? All right, the report really zooms in on Jared Kushner. His firm, Affinity Partners, allegedly looks after nearly $5 billion. And get this, a staggering 99% of that money is said to come from foreign governments. The report actually describes the firm as a kind of compensation model, a way to get around disclosure rules while he's also making major diplomatic moves. And this quote from Senator Ron Wyden really sums up the heart of the criticism against Kushner's alleged double role. The suggestion isn't that foreign governments are investing because they're expecting a great financial return. No, the implication is that they're trying to buy favorable U.S. policy, which is why the whole thing gets framed as a potential national security threat. And to really understand his alleged influence now, the report takes us back to this really controversial deal from the first term. It shows this sequence of events where a Kushner family property, which was in deep financial trouble, was suddenly bailed out by a company heavily funded by Qatar. But here's the twist. This happened only after Kushner had supported a diplomatic blockade against Qatar. The report suggests this whole episode set a pretty major precedent. Next up, the president's eldest son, Donald Trump Jr. He's singled out for what the report calls advisory board corruption. It claims there's a clear pattern here. Since the 2024 election, he's apparently joined the boards of several companies, and almost immediately after, those companies received massive benefits from the federal government. We're talking things like a huge Army contract or having a federal fraud investigation suddenly dropped. And at the same time, his brother Eric is said to be heading up this really aggressive global expansion and doing it with a whole new level of openness. The report actually flags a pretty startling quote where he apparently said the organization would no longer bother trying to avoid the appearance of impropriety. And this was supposedly followed by a series of high-profile meetings with world leaders and countries where the Trump organization has major business deals cooking. The report also shines a light on a new set of family players, the Boulos clan. So Tiffany Trump's father-in-law, Mossad Boulos, was made special advisor for Africa. The allegation is that he used this official government role to build up his own private business networks. At the same time, his son Michael is accused in the report of being a paid gatekeeper, allegedly taking money just to arrange access to the president. Okay, so hearing all of this, you've got to be asking a pretty obvious question. If all this is happening, how is this system, as the report describes it, being protected from any kind of oversight? How are they getting away with it? Well, according to the report, the administration started by taking apart the oversight system piece by piece. In the very first week of the second term, 17 independent inspectors general were reportedly fired. Now, these are the internal watchdogs for government agencies. Their entire job is to stop fraud, waste, and abuse. Another really key piece of the puzzle mentioned is something called Schedule F. This is an executive order that reclassifies thousands of career civil servants, the non-political professional staff, as political appointees. That means they can be fired for any reason. The report argues this just guts the idea of an impartial civil service and replaces it with one where loyalty to the president could easily trump the rule of law. And finally, the report claims that the presidential pardon is being used as a tool to protect allies. It points out that a lot of pardons have been given to people convicted of financial crimes and corruption. The argument is that this sends a clear message to everyone in the network. This sort of behavior won't just be overlooked, it might actually be rewarded. So, let's just pull this all together. At its core, the report we've been looking at alleges a massive shift. It describes a move away from those more straightforward conflicts of interest towards a highly professionalized system. A system that uses complex, opaque digital assets to turn state power into private family wealth, all while the usual checks and balances are allegedly being torn down one by one. And at the end of the day, the report leaves us with a really fundamental question to think about. If the powers of a state can become so deeply tangled up with the private financial interests of its leaders, what's the ultimate cost? Not just for national security, but for democratic norms themselves. Right, so all the information in this explainer has been drawn from the sources you see here on the screen. We've put links to all of them in the description below, so you can dive in and explore them for yourselves. Thanks for watching.